E.B. White's Charlotte's Web, really? Revolutionary? Come on, it's a children's novel. Seriously. Lots of farm animals, children as their main characters. Yeah. It's funny how we miss the radical when it's barely hidden. We become such domesticated animals, can't smell, recognize freedom and intelligence anymore. What is so radical about Charlotte's Web? One, it's clearly pushing, recommending, arguing for animal rights, vegetarianism, veganism. Can't get much more serious than that. Um, why? Why would an author have something to say about our food? Why can't he just talk about greed, freedom, and those other abstractions? Food, yeah, that's the nitty gritty stuff. It is central to our lives. It has been to the human endeavor for some time, forever perhaps. We're the first creatures to be free from the instinct that drives other animals to eat only what's good for them, only what their ancestors may have eaten. Generally, that applies to all animals, domesticated animals accepted, being the exceptions. They're foolish enough to eat whatever we give them, chocolate bars included. So humans, being free from their animal instincts, are eating everything willy-nilly, regardless of health implications, environmental implications. The book's argument against this that is not particularly environmental. It appears to be focused on the fact that animals have feelings and intelligence. Earthquake here. But yes, what could be more serious than criticism of our diets, what we put into our bodies? And food is becoming more and more important now that we have psychopaths in control more than ever, destroying the food industry, supplies and harvests through unnecessary lockdowns, through geoengineering, perhaps the solar minimum is not helping, and so on. Starvation and hunger are on the move as I speak. Thousands lining up for food in the States and other civilized countries that are having their food industry dismantled and destroyed while people sit watching Netflix. It's quite a comedy. Yes. Imagine watching all those dystopian films while you are living in one. So it goes. Other points of interest in this revolutionary novel. The wonderful scene of Wilbur the pig attempting to escape from the farm and having all the other animals, mostly domesticated, encouraging him to strive for freedom, go for it. What a disappointment. More disappointing than a story told by George Orwell, Animal Farm. Poor Wilbur, he doesn't have the will nor the skills to survive in the wild. He's become domesticated. Although, in reality, pigs can go feral quite effectively, efficiently. In contrast, sheep and cows, chickens, perhaps not so well. Humans, of course, this is a story about humans. Are we ready to run free, escape from the farm that we call our dear countries, United States, Canada, Brazil, call it what you will. It's not a home, it's a farm. And you are paying your taxes as your milk payment. Those are your eggs. Your children get shoved off to school, trained to work. The future generation of farm animals. Animals that, by the way, not only get exploited, but are quite efficient at destroying their own environment. So in that case, we outdo the farm animals, indeed. Other themes worthy of our attention, there might be no shortage of them. I can't say I'm entirely well versed on this excellent novel. Next topic, though, that comes to mind is goodness, what's his name? Dr. Dorian. I think it's Charlotte's mother who comes to him. She's concerned about Charlotte's strange lifestyle, spending too much time being entertained and communicating with Wilbur the pig, even when he's living in a newer pile. She still goes, still loves that little pig. Dr. Dorian thinks there's nothing wrong with that. Very healthy to understand, just for children to identify with animals, to be curious about them, amused by them. Who knows? Perhaps, perhaps Fern saw her own life encapsulated in Wilbur's life. Wilbur living on a pile of manure or bullshit. Right? Isn't that where we're all living right now? On a pile of bullshit. Yes, the media, those spidery creatures spinning their webs, catching the gullible public, writing most famously, "What a pig," or something of that sort. And soon enough, everyone believes it is a remarkable pig by virtue of someone having written that on the web, on the media, in the media. People will believe almost, who's doing that? People will believe almost anything. Creepy shit going on there. Back to Dr. Dorian. He's not worried about little Fern, who's named after a plant. Does not have a Christian name. And he admits he doesn't know much. What does he say exactly? I don't understand it. But for that matter, I don't understand how a spider learned to spin a web in the first place. When the words appeared, everyone said they were a miracle, and so on. How refreshing for a doctor to admit he doesn't understand something. He doesn't recommend any new course of action. So I wish our doctors would do the same. Wouldn't that be nice? Let nature take care of things. Let us live in accordance with nature. Uh, Children play outside. They mess about in the dirt, chase after pigs, animals. So why not? The author seems to have told us it's the best way. Live in accord with Mother Nature, not with our pharmaceutical, political overlords giving us bad advice left and right, making us think they care about us, think they are qualified to lead us, and even convince us that we really need them. Yes, with all this, some of this intelligence, gift of nature, somehow we've convinced ourselves that we are the most incapable creatures on the planet. We need specialists doing everything for us, even governing us. Not really what nature intended. I think the good book, Charlotte's Web, has quite a different message and a good answer. In a moment, I will discuss this book with 3 of my students. We will add a little more flesh to the bones of my little critique and revelation. Wishing everyone good evening until then. Yeah, meat's definitely a bit trickier and, well, definitely messier. Okay. Any thoughts on this subject, Kevin?
Like eating meat.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we don't really think about where our meat comes from enough.
No, not at all. For example, and milk, not to mention milk. How does milk get started? Well, of course, it comes from a cow, but when do cows produce milk? When they're supposed to, for a baby cow. So what do we do with the baby cow? We get rid of that baby cow and we continue milking the cow. We might feed it hormones so that it tricks its body into continuing to produce milk. But I'm pretty sure it typically starts with a birth. That is the best way to get the cow's hormones to go into milk producing mode. And when that cow is separated from its calf, believe it's not happy about it. Those animals are very defensive about their young ones. Like bears. You don't want to mess with a mother bear and her child. Okay. Let's look at another topic. Oh yeah, veganism. Anyone interested in veganism? Seems to be growing very rapidly in popularity. Not yet. No one's parents interested in that yet. Do we really need meat and milk? Anyone want to discuss that? Isabella, what do you think? Can we live without meat and milk?
I mean, well, there are alternatives for these, like for meat and dairy. Like we can get like the same amount of protein from meats as like tofu, and yeah, there's just like alternatives for these things.
Yes, there
Yeah.
are. Tofu is a popular one, but you don't need that. Tofu is created from a bean, soybean. There are other beans that are easier to prepare and are not only replacements, or replacements, but contain actually more protein by volume or mass than beef. Mother Nature did not design us to eat meat. We are closely related to which species? Not lions, not wolves. What species? Not bears.
Apes,
Apes?
or like monkeys, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And chimps are the only apes that sometimes indulge in meat, and I believe it's typically triggered by competition for food with other, well, at least with monkeys, I think. Not other ape species, but monkeys, smaller creatures. When there is food scarcity, chimps will hunt them and eat them. It's not a normal part of their diet. What's next on the menu? Anyone know what my diet is?
Are you a vegan?
I am well beyond veganism, I think. I'm called a raw vegan, which means I don't cook. I needed to do that in order to address some health problems I had, and it's worked very well. I think I'm completing my third year of essentially eating not more than 2% of my diet is cooked, maybe. You know, when I'm at family gatherings, and then typically my body is not quite as happy with cooked food. I prefer to stay raw. The author portrayed the animals as thinking, feeling, and intelligent creatures in many other chapters. Many of the chapters. Is this based on reality, on science? Well, to be fair, it's mostly a book about large mammals. But what do you think? Animals, can they be feeling, thinking, intelligent creatures? In what way are they different from us?
Yeah, I do believe animals. I do believe animals experience emotions, and they have thoughts, and they have like a certain amount of intelligence. So yeah, I do believe animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, are there any other animals that cry?
Uh, I'm pretty sure, so like, in my opinion, like, or like what I've seen, like land animals, I believe they can cry. I'm not sure about marine animals though.
Land, did you say land mammals?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not aware that all of them, but I have heard cows can cry. Um, any other animals that seem to reflect on death the way humans can?
Um, I'm not sure. Okay. I guess elephant, elephants maybe.
That's right. That's what I've seen, I guess, and heard. Um, any other special creatures? Any? I do remember watching a documentary once in which a mother, I think it was a chimpanzee, lost her baby and could not stop grieving until I think she died grieving. Just couldn't eat. It was so sad.
Yeah, I've seen some house pets shed some tears.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Hmm. I won't ask what was going on. What kind of mischief were you up to?
It wasn't me. It was actually like some YouTube videos of pets reacting to their owners dying.
To their owners doing what?
Like so there's this thing going around where owners pretended to die in front of their pets and see how they reacted, and I saw some pets crying
Wow.
and
Sure.
like calling out.
Right, right. Wow. They understand. Um, next, what was I going to say next? We should go ahead and discuss the difference between wild and domesticated animals. Um, why don't the animals escape? Any thoughts on that? What's the difference between wild and domesticated first?
Wild animals, they have like, yeah, they have freedom. Or like domesticated animals, a lot of their actions are controlled by humans for
Yeah,
a long time.
right.
And they probably over a long time, they begin to lose their like survival instinct. So if you leave them out in the wild again, they're probably gonna die.
Yeah, right. Wild animals are independent, do not need human support. Domesticated ones do. Not many of our pets could survive out in the wild. Um, is the farm perhaps also a political symbol? Are humans, or the majority of humans, domesticated in some way? You notice if you read my show notes, you might have an idea about what I'm talking about. The farm is a good symbol for country, myself and
Oh, the connection to where the farm represents our country, as in the animals would represent the tax-paying payers who would pay money to the government, and the government just doesn't do much. And I guess the government in this story would be the people, and the animals pay taxes in, well, their own ways, like milk. Cows would give milk, etc.
right, right. Um,
Yeah, you could also see us as domesticated, like when the governments told us to stay home, we stayed home. Similar to how like dogs like listen to human commands.
yeah, we've stopped thinking for ourselves, and we've somehow been trained to think that um, governments are there looking out for us, protecting us. Um, there's not much good evidence for that. I don't think the first pioneers came to Canada and started farming by themselves and said to themselves, well, this is nice out here in the wilderness, taking care of ourselves, but we really miss the government. We need a government. And one suddenly appeared, you know, on the backs of the mounted police. It's not the way governments are born. It's just that we gradually get used to them and forget that they were forced upon formerly free people. A lot of indigenous groups took care to avoid letting people become too powerful politically. They made sure that the role of the chief remained one of mediator and not so much decision maker, but one who mediates and helps the tribe come to agreement. All right. Thinking I'm missing something. Pretty heavy topics. Yeah, right now I feel like the whole country is being, might as well get really serious. I feel like the whole country, the whole world is being marched off to the slaughterhouse. The economy is being ruined, and a lot of people are becoming more dependent on the government farmer for their food, for their income, becoming more domesticated. And our homes are being turned into stalls, barn stalls. You can hardly get out now. And our governments want to watch wherever we go. All right, and we'll soon be strongly advised, if not forced, to get vaccines. Just like animals in barns, they don't have a say about, yeah, yes or no, that you get the vaccine, you get your medicine whether you want it or not. Before we go there, school. Yeah, it's a minor topic in this story, but I think education is a big topic in the story. What does this novel tell us about school, Kevin?
Well, in the novel, school is like not portrayed as something that really benefits Fern. It doesn't really seem to help her at all in the novel, and there's not much like specifications of what she learns. So maybe the author is trying to tell us that school really isn't that useful in life, and we should be changing how our schools are.
Right. I mean, Fern does something quite heroic in the first couple pages. Was that heroism influenced by her school? Inspired by her school? Not in the least. She just had this insight into the value of another animal's life. And that's not something we tend to learn at school. You can study history and you'll get a lot of numbers, 6 million dead, 4 million dead, 10 million, 20 million. Doesn't teach you how to appreciate life and care for other beings. Might be doing the opposite, just learning to treat death as a number value. Girls, what do you think about the role of school and education?
Yeah, it does like portray school as a place where we don't really want to be. I feel like in society right now, school, they don't make it enjoyable, like they make it a competition. And students obviously aren't gonna learn anything because if you think about it, if we're gonna be competitive with grades and stuff, if you already know about it, like students, they like probably go to classes outside of school to, I don't know, like not like gain knowledge, but to know like beforehand what the schools are gonna teach. So yes, basically what I'm saying is like school is just now like a competition. It's not really like a place for learning.
Right, and not a place for um, developing conscience, love and care for other beings, fellow students included. Too competitive. Um, and group work tends to be just not really a bonding experience, but a frustrating experience for most students, especially good ones. What do you think, Isabella?
I don't really have any comments to add to this topic.
Okay. Um, what could we go to next? Kevin, have anything in mind?
In another direction we could take this.
Yeah, I guess we could go to church and Charlotte's magic.
Talking about religion.
Yeah, I think it's not just religion, but there was a Sunday thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I feel like, well, in this novel, making fun of religion a bit because it wasn't very hard to trick everyone into thinking that it was a miracle and all, and they believed that it was the pig instead of the spider that was the miracle animal, which is weird because the spider would make the web. And so I feel like the author is trying to say that people believe what they want to believe too easily without much proof.
Right, and yeah, and they don't think about where their ideas came from, who gave those ideas to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Humans are quite gullible. When they saw this phenomenon, it's like when they see or hear something that it's hard to explain, they find it easy to believe in, I would say.
Hmm. Are you making a connection to the real world?
Somewhat.
Yeah. Do you have any concrete examples of people easily believing what they read, see, hear about?
I guess maybe like the Western media.
Absolutely. And not only Western media, maybe we could add schools. I think education is part of the media. Um, the messaging and your information source. Sometimes a source of entertainment. Kevin, any more, or Sophia, any more, any concrete connections?
No, not at the moment.
No. Have any of you seen a dangerous coronavirus? Actually seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Have you seen actual photographs that are trustworthy of this deadly coronavirus?
Not really.
Not really either. Then how do we know it exists? Why do we believe the press?
Well, the media tells us, I guess.
Yes, we do. Well, the mainstream media, certainly the corporate state-owned media that most people watch, there are doctors who have very different opinions about viruses and germs, germ theory, and they tend not to be heard on the media. So I think one of the most, a couple doctors I just wrote about recently in my COVID handout, just openly state that there is no COVID-19. There has been no proof given. And proof could be given. It's not easy to produce, but they could involve electron microscopes. It could involve double-blind testing. Could involve deliberately trying to infect one person from another person to see if this thing really is infectious. Nothing has been done. So we really are in Fern's world, where in that story, people fell in love with this pig and were in a state of awe. In our case, the dominant emotion is, of course, fear and worry. But the method is the same. Do humans believe other silly stories besides this latest? Not sure. I'm sure there are lots of them. Every election year, for example, people are convinced that they're going to vote for the man or the woman who fulfills their promises. We know how that story goes. Okay, more topics. Charlotte saves Wilbur by writing. Explain how she might symbolize the author, E.B. White, and explain who Charlotte's children symbolize. Any thoughts on that? Where am I? What do Charlotte and the author have in common? Someone's typing the answer. What is the answer? Come on, guys. What's the magic that Charlotte does on her web?
Right? Right.
Yeah. How does that relate to the author?
The author also writes?
The writer.
Yeah. Now, Charlotte saves a pig's life, and I suppose the author wanted to save some lives too with his writing. Do you think the author just wanted to save pigs, or only wanted to save pigs? Are there other animals that he might be interested in saving? Is this a story just about pork and pigs?
Like animals that are being eaten.
Animals in general, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Are part of our diet. How about other human beings? If the animals, the domesticated animals, symbolize humans who are also stuck on this farm and have somehow forgotten how to take care of each other and themselves. Couldn't Wilbur symbolize all of humanity, everyone who's become dependent on big government, or maybe even small government, and this huge specialized economy where, you know, we can't do anything without having some specialist come in and do it for us. We have our own specializations. We can hardly we hardly know how to cook anymore. Most people don't know how to build their own house, how to fix their own toilet, how to raise their own children. Everything is a job now, specialization. So maybe the story is also about that. I might be stretching a bit. I think my last topic concerns Templeton, the rat. Anyone have some thoughts on Templeton? What does his name suggest about him? Temple? What does temple imply? He reminds me a little of Moses in Orwell's Animal Farm. Moses was the crow, I think, or raven, named after the famous Jewish prophet Moses. Templeton also invokes religion. His name, Temple, refers to a religious house of worship. I'm sure you might know that. Any of you go to temples or churches?
I go there for like travel and sightseeing. They're not for religious purposes.
I see, just for the architecture and the statues, the art.
Yeah.
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 Kevin, what about you? I think you're very religious.
No. Yeah, I agree with Sophia. I'm like that too. Like, I don't go there to like for religious practice, but like when I go on like vacations and there are famous churches and stuff because of their architecture, I go and check them out.
Okay. Isabella, are you religious?
No, I'm the same as Sophia.
Right. Well, I think the three of you were lucky not to be raised by religious parents. Not that they're all nasty and the worst, but does exempt you from having to go to a church. And I don't know any children who genuinely enjoy a late Sunday morning in a church. So consider yourself blessed. What about Templeton, his personality? I need some input from you guys.
I mean, he is quite selfish and sometimes a glutton, but he does play a very important role in the story.
He does. Without him, what would have happened?
Firstly, Charlotte would have been captured by Avery if he hadn't put like the rotten egg there, I believe.
Wait, who would have been captured?
Charlotte.
Oh yeah. What if
Also, when Charlotte had to make the words to help save Wilbur, Templeton helped find them. And also, when Wilbur fainted in front of the crowd in the county fair, Templeton also reawoke him, kind of. And also, when Charlotte was dying, Templeton helped retrieve that egg sac. Yeah.
Right. So, if I'm not mistaken, he only does good. Is that right?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. You mentioned about 4 or 5 things that he'd done, and they sound like they were all benevolent and heroic. Yeah. Not sure what the author's message there was. Templeton's also a bit of a glutton, as you mentioned. He feeds off Wilbur's scraps mostly. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Christian priest class. They do get the handouts, so to speak, from their what do they call them? Their congregations, their followers, their supporters. But they are really kind of scraps. The bulk of people's money does not go to churches generally. Yeah, it's a more positive message. I'm sure there are good religious people about. Famously in South America, there was I forgot the movement. I think it was called the oh, I've forgotten it. But some priests were very brave in trying to defend their people. Sometimes they call their people their flock, like we're domesticated animals. Not very flattering, but anyway, sometimes no harm is meant. But somehow it's not very flattering to make this heroic character a rat and the other one a spider. What might the author be telling us? I mean, in Christianity, the hero is portrayed as a lamb, the Lamb of God. In other cultures, I don't know, dragons, I don't know, but not spiders and rats. Indigenous cultures prefer to honor more, what should we call them? Powerful animals, I don't know. Larger animals, more honorable for some, if I could use that word. What do you think about this choice? Just take a wild guess. What's the author suggesting about heroes?
Like they don't have a specific appearance.
Yeah, they might not. Good. Go ahead.
Like don't. I know this is like common, but like don't judge a book by its cover.
Right. And maybe more than that, if you want to find real heroes, don't look for the stereotypical ones, the handsome ones. Be prepared to look where you are normally afraid to look. Right? Myself, for example, I'm not so handsome, but I consider myself a bit of a hero. I'm a bit lacking in action, but I do my share of web weaving, having now my own actual website now too. But prior to that, at least I was still weaving webs, not so much to kill a targeted audience, but to share something with people. So hopefully we can all do that with our lifetime, not just be consumers and taxpayers, but be people who directly help others and take care of ourselves as well as the endangered and the less fortunate. Any final thoughts on this great novel? Hope you all have one thing to say, something. Would you recommend it? Anything? Kevin?
Yeah, I recommend it. It's like a good novel and it has some good messages in it.
And it can be funny at times,
Yeah.
or almost funny. We haven't even spoken about the silly psychologist. I've forgotten that scene, but maybe another time. Or maybe Sophia and Isabella. Final thoughts?
Yeah, it does. The book does have like a lot of good morals it shares.
Yeah, it's a very uplifting and positive book.
Yeah.
You know, in some ways, it's as serious as 1984 or Animal Farm, just not as dark as these more serious novels. But their advice is, and their examples are equally of, if maybe not even more useful to us. Okay, thanks for joining me on another podcast. I wish you all a good night, and until next time, take care. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.